Good morning. I hereby call to order this 12th meeting of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for the year 2025. Welcome everyone joining us here in the room today, as well as those joining us on a live stream. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. At today's meeting, which is open to the public, the Commission will act on various matters. Since adequate forums have been made available for public participation in cases before the Commission, there is no opportunity for the public to address the Commission at this public meeting. Public meeting motions, statements, and video will be available on the Commission's website later today. We do have a quorum of commissioners present today, as Commissioner Zerfas is joining us remotely. Good morning, Commissioner Zerfas. Are you with us?
Good morning, Karen. I'm here.
Thank you, Commissioner Zerfas. The first matter on this morning's agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of May 22nd, 2025. I would like to recognize Commissioner Yanora as the editor of the minutes. Commissioner Yanora.
Chairman, I've reviewed the minutes of the May 22nd, 2025 public meeting and move that they're approved as submitted. Thank you.
You've heard the motion by Commissioner Yanora. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The minutes are approved by a vote of 5-0. Let us begin by turning to page 1 of today's agenda, matters presented by Director Hafner in the Office of Special Assistance. I move that the Commission adopt a proposed opinion and order regarding the application of Aqua Pennsylvania wastewater for approval to acquire the wastewater assets of the City of Beaver Falls. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion?
Chairman, I have a statement.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Thank you. So please enter my statement into the record as though read in its entirety. This is a Section 1329 case, and I'm going to repeat some things that you've heard me say before, but I think it bears repeating. So the legislature enacted Section 1329 as a much needed tool to be utilized to encourage consolidation of the water and wastewater companies in this state. Properly implemented, Section 1329 has the potential to improve water and wastewater service to millions of Pennsylvanians. But if not properly constrained, the runway valuations carried out under the cover of Section 29 and industry consolidation will eclipse the good that can be done for Pennsylvania's residents. This sale involves a system with a book value of $5 million. Yet Aqua's ratepayers are being told it's worth $41 million, $37 million, and finally, $30 million, which is approximately 6 times greater than the depreciated original cost of the city's system. Granted, the cost of these transactions are allowed to be spread across a larger customer base to diminish the impact on rates and rate increases, but we can't deny the fact that the rate increases from these transactions are substantial, and increasingly, they will have a cumulative effect. The goal of regionalization and consolidation is not simply to acquire as many water and wastewater systems as possible and combine them into one system. It is to consolidate the systems in a way that benefits the customers. I note that transactions such as this one can also be conducted through the traditional acquisition process described in sections 1102 and 1103 of the code. And the Commission has made provisions for incentives for applicable utilities in our policy statement at 69.721G for that. In my opinion, for this particular application with these particular facts, I don't believe that as currently filed, an affirmative public benefit has been shown. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have a statement if you can hear.
Commissioner Zerfus, please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies for doing this virtual. But if I break up too much, just please enter my statement into the record as if I read it in its entirety. But the long and short of it is that under these specific circumstances, in this case, I find that the settlement is in the public interest and that Aqua has of demonstrating that acquiring Beaver Falls will promote the service, accommodation, convenience, and safety of the public. I agree. We must carefully evaluate each 1329 proceeding on a case-by-case basis. And in conducting this evaluation, we have to review the evidence before us and decide whether they, met that burden of proving that there's these public benefits that outweigh the resulting harms or potential harms from an acquisition. The parties to the settlement have taken steps to minimize the impact of the rate increase. They agreed to a rate base that was considerably less than the filed rate making dollar amount of $41,250,000. The settlement includes interest provisions that should be approved, including the commitment to add an additional $100,000 to the hardship fund over a 3-year period. Send a letter to customers with information regarding the low-income program that Aqua has to offer and how to enroll in these programs. Beaver Falls customers potentially being eligible to enroll or who are enrolled in the company cap, and then present a breakdown of the cap enrollment data pertaining to the customers in its next base rate case. So while I would have preferred that the settling parties include a higher amount in the hardship fund contributions and some sort of payment arrangement or other benefits for small businesses, are in the public interest, and I will be voting to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zerfus. Any further comments? I also have a statement in this matter. I ask my statement be entered into the record as though I read it in its entirety. Before the commissions are exceptions to the recommended decision of Administrative Law Judge F. Joseph Brady regarding Aqua Pennsylvania Wastewater Incorporated's proposed acquisition of the wastewater system assets of the City of Beaver Falls. Aqua and Beaver Falls entered into Initial Asset Purchase Agreement, or APA, on October 20th, 2021. Aqua filed the instant application pursuant to Sections 507, 1102, and 1329 of the Public Utility Code on February 17th, 2023. Beaver Falls owns and operates a wastewater collection and treatment system which serves approximately 3,190 customers in Beaver County and provides transmission and treatment service for 7 municipalities. The average of Aqua and the city's fair market value, or FMV, appraisals of the wastewater assets in this case is $42.2 million. The APA price is $37.7 million. The depreciated original cost, or DOC, of the Beaver Falls system is $5 million. Aqua, Beaver Falls, and the Office of Consumer Advocate and the Commission's Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement all entered into a non-unanimous settlement. Under the terms of the joint settlement, Aqua would establish a rate-making rate base figure of $29.9 million, below the APA price of $37.75 million, for which the company is entitled to seek relief. Nonetheless, I am cognizant of the joint settlement terms still represent a price well in excess of the DOC. To that end, I wish to state my reasons for support of this application. First and foremost, I submit the utilization of the Commission's Reasonableness Review Ratio, or RRR, is not prudent for this instant application. As noted above, Aqua and Beaver Falls first entered into the APA on October 20th, 2021, and first filed at the Commission on February 17th, 2023. These dates precede the Commission's first published RRR on August 2nd, 2024. Second, the application exhibits the impending risk of Beaver Falls' continual operation of the system. Beaver Falls clearly lacks a desire to run a wastewater system that meets significant present and future regulatory requirements. Beaver Falls' existing rates are substantially below the wastewater rates of existing certified utilities in the Commonwealth. The city's monthly rates at $33 compared to rates of $133 for Pennsylvania American Water Company Zone 1 and $101 for Aqua Wastewater Rate Zone 1 and $86 for Pittsburgh Water. Such a disparity is indicative of rates that are well below cost of service, and recent events signify the expected results of such misaligned rates. The record here shows a Beaver Falls trend of recent environmental deficiencies. These include total suspended solids effluent violations in December 2022, February 2023, and March 2023, along with the fecal coliform violation issued in June 2023. These violations and others present a health risk to downstream public water systems and users in the Beaver and Ohio River valleys. This is compounded by Beaver Falls' lack of operational and financial fitness to address these challenges. Concerns of Beaver Falls include, but are not limited to, a lack of licensed operators, a lack of access to training, limited process control testing, inadequate laboratory management, issues with permit compliance, lack of emergency preparedness planning, lack of safety equipment, lack of security equipment, concerns revolving around hazardous chemical asset management, ventilation issues in its treatment plant, inadequate supervisory control and data acquisition, or SCADA, insufficient backup generation, and lack of asset management software. Such concerns can be compared against the remedies Aqua commits to in this proceeding. Aqua plans to spend approximately $10.2 million to make necessary improvements, including upgrading the wastewater treatment plant, improvement to the filter tower, updating sludge collectors, improving the SCADA system, rehabilitating gravity collection system pipe, converting from gas to liquid chlorine, and working with the Department of Environmental Protection to address inflow and infiltration and sanitary overflows within the system. Third, both OCA and I&E support the joint settlement. OCA states that the $29.9 million rate-making rate base represents an amount that is within the range of possible outcomes in the Commission final order in the event of full litigation of the case based on substantial record evidence. As well, I&E submits that the joint settlement will meet the public policy goal of regionalizing water systems and will yield better management practices, economies of scale, and the resulting greater customer, environmental, and economic benefits. I applaud the parties to the joint settlement for their innovation in this proceeding. Utilizing the settlement process to reach terms on a rate-making rate base between the DOC and the APA, the joint settlement establishes an FMV of $29.9 million for Beaver Falls. It is clearly within the rights of the parties in 1329 proceedings to advocate for their positions on the FMV, including through agreeing to amicable settlement terms. For these reasons, I will be voting in support of this instant application. Any further comments? Hearing none.
Chairman,
Vice Chair Barrow.
just one counterpoint. So the issues that the company has, those are real. And I just want to be clear, I don't have a problem with approving this type of transaction. I think the OCA's litigation position would have been $19 million for this transaction for a system that's worth $5 million. That's reasonable. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes have it, and matters are approved by a vote of 4-1, noting the dissent of Vice Chair Barrow. Turning to page 2 of today's agenda, I move that the commission adopt in an omnibus motion both items on page 2, beginning with the formal complaints of William Ferguson versus Aqua Pennsylvania Wastewater Incorporated, and ending the omnibus at the bottom of page 2 with a formal complaint of Antonio Chiatti versus PPL Electric Utilities Corporation. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and matters are approved by a vote of 5-0. Turning to page 3 of today's agenda, it should be noted that the formal complaint of Julian Hormilla versus PPL Electric Utilities Corporation has been postponed to the public meeting of July 10th, 2025. Continuing on page 3, I move that the commission adopt a proposed opinion and order regarding the joint application of Appalachian Utilities Incorporated and Pennsylvania American Water Company. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Nora. Any discussion?
Chairman.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Thank you. The chairman and I have a motion on this matter. All right. Please enter the motion into the record as though read in its entirety. I will shorten it. Appalachian Utilities, Inc. seeks approval to sell 40% of its equity shares from its sole existing shareholder to the company's Director of Operations. Further, Appalachian and Pennsylvania American Water Company jointly seek approval post-stock sale for PA American to purchase Appalachian. Appalachian is a smaller water company providing service to 1,456 customers in portions of Clarion County. The application details the depreciated original cost of Appalachian at $1,396,252. However, the utility sale application labels the stated asset purchase agreement price as confidential. As such, the public is not privy as to how much PA American is to pay for Appalachian. We understand that the instant application was filed pursuant to Section 1102 of the Code. Therefore, this proceeding does not have any direct bearing on the rate-making treatment of the costs paid by the parties. However, both the depreciated original cost and the asset purchase agreement could be pricing indicators utilized by PA American in a future rate proceeding. We further note that should PA American seek to utilize an expense adjustment pursuant to Section 1327 of the Code, it would be required to publicly disclose that adjustment. Given this, we find it to be extraordinary for the parties to claim confidential protection for the asset purchase agreement price. While not germane to rate making at this point, it is reasonable for the asset purchase agreement price to be transparent so that the public, including the existing PA American customers and its potentially new 1,456 customers, so that they can be aware of potential for future rate-making implications associated with the transaction. However, we do have to acknowledge that the parties here and the presiding ALJs all agreed to label the asset purchase agreement price confidential. We find it prudent to direct PA American and Appalachian to file comments in an expedited fashion that either provides more rationale as to why the purchase price should not be made public when the transaction involves one regulated utility buying another regulated utility, or alternatively to request the removal of the confidential designation of the asset purchase agreement price. Therefore, we move that 1, the Office of Special Assistant shall draft an opinion and order consistent with this motion. 2, within 10 days of the entry date of the opinion and order, Appalachian Utilities and PA American shall file written comments justifying the confidential treatment of the asset purchase agreement price, or requesting removal of the confidential designation of the asset purchase agreement price. 3, that within 15 days of the entry date of this opinion and order, the parties to the proceeding may file written reply comments limited to responding to the issues raised and the subject matter discussed in the comments. And 4, the Office of Special Assistant shall review the comments and reply comments submitted and prepare an opinion in order for a future public meeting consistent with this joint motion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. We've heard the motion by Vice Chair Barrow and myself, the joint motion. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Yanora. Any discussion?
Chairman, I do have a statement on this matter.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you. And I'd ask that my statement be entered into the record as though I read it in its entirety. As we've heard this morning, this is an acquisition of Appalachian Utilities, Inc. To Pennsylvania American Water Company. And my comments this morning are really focused around the sensitivity of what is considered proprietary information in the form of the sale price and the timely disposition of this case. As we've heard, this case presents an unusual issue regarding whether confidential treatment should be given to the purchase price paid by PAWC to acquire the system. PAWC and Appalachian asked that this price be kept confidential, and this treatment was granted by the presiding ALJ without objection of any of the parties. The purchase price, however, was disclosed to the parties in this case, including the Office of Consumer Advocate. The parties were able to use and refer to the purchase price in their arguments for or against the approval of the transaction before the Office of Administrative Law Judge. The Commission knows the purchase price for this system and has had the opportunity to factor into the deliberations on these exceptions. The confidential treatment of the purchase price is not the subject of the exceptions to the initial decision. I agree that it's not clear from the record exactly why there is confidential treatment afforded to the purchase price. I think the issue is worthy of further review, and it may even be appropriate to direct the parties to disclose this price unless they provide additional supporting evidence as to why the purchase price should remain confidential. However, as the confidential treatment of the purchase price is not relevant to determine whether to grant the requested certificate of public convenience under Chapter 11 of the Public Utility Code, there is no legal impediment to voting on the merits of the exceptions at this public meeting. If PAWC were to later seek cost recovery for the purchase price, of course, the amount of the purchase would need to be disclosed at that time. Moreover, I think the Commission could have addressed this issue in a more efficient manner. For example, the Commission could have addressed the merits of this transaction at this point or at a prior public meeting if it inclined to approve the merger. Could have granted tentative approval with a direction to disclose the purchase price at the time of the merger closing or at another appropriate date. PAWC and Appalachian could have been given some reasonable period of time to object to the disclosure, and if they did, the issue could have been separated from the approval of the merger and subject for further review. If the parties did not object to the tentative order's direction to disclose the purchase price, the tentative order could have become final without further action of this Commission. While I note that the Public Utility Code directs the Commission to rule on all exceptions within 90 days, these exceptions were filed on March 12th, and the 90-day period expired on June 11th. I believe that the Commission could have availed itself to other approaches to provide a full consideration of this issue, afforded the parties the due process, and allowed us to address the merits of this transaction while striving to meet the timely requirements of the Code, or at least minimize the delay in ruling on the exceptions. Accordingly, I will be voting concurring and result only on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Any further comments? Hearing none on the motion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is approved by a vote of 5-0, noting Commissioner Coleman concurring in result only. On the matter as amended by the motion, is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? Hearing none, the matter is adopted as amended by a motion by a vote of 5-0, noting Commissioner Coleman concurring in result only. Turning to the agenda, turning to page 4, I move that the commission adopt the proposed opinion and order regarding the formal complaint of Yolanda Jones versus PPL Electric Utility Corporation. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the matter is approved by a vote of 5-0. Continuing on page 4, I move that the commission adopt a proposed opinion and order regarding the formal complaint of Alan Fabius versus Pico Energy Company, Electric. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion?
Chairman, I have a verbal.
Vice Chair Barrow.
Thank you. So this case involves a pretty high arrearage. It's a unfortunate combination of facts. There's a extremely high variable rate, shopping rate, following the end of a fixed contract, and also a payment challenged customer, and we ended up with a very large arrearage. So customers, of course, are expected to pay for their usage, but EGSs should also be expected to charge reasonable market-based rates. I was shocked to see a bill which showed a generation charge of 31 cents. At that point, PECO's PTC was 9 cents. And whenever it is that the EGS was going out for supply, I'm guessing 31 cents was not the market-based rate. So for one particular month, there's a generation charge of alone. It's not the whole bill, it's just the generation charge of $1,000.72. People can't afford that. So I'm going to say it one more time to the EGS community, to the competitive supply community. Customers are facing a lot of competing demands for their dollars. Please do better. Thanks.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and matters are approved by a vote of 5-0. Turning to page 5 of today's agenda, matters presented by Director Diskin in the Bureau of Technical Utility Services. I move that the commission adopt an omnibus motion, both items on page 5, beginning with the proposed opinion and order regarding the lead service line replacement program filed by Valley View Water Company Incorporated, and ending the omnibus at the bottom of page 5 with the proposed tentative order regarding electric generation supplier license cancellations. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and matters are approved by a vote of 5-0. Turning to page 6 of today's agenda, I move that the commission adopt the proposed Act 129 Energy Efficiency and Conservation Phase 5 Implementation Order. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? I do have a statement in this matter. I ask my statement be entered into the record as though I read it in its entirety. Before us for consideration today is a final implementation order for Phase 5 of the Energy Efficiency and Conservation, or EE&C programs established by Act 129 of 2008. First of all, I would like to thank Commission staff and the consultants from our statewide evaluator for all the hard work that went into getting us to this point. I would also like to express my appreciation for all the parties who commented on this proceeding, providing us with a robust and diverse record. The energy landscape in Pennsylvania right now is full of challenges, but also opportunities. The tremendous load growth expected to come from data centers and related infrastructure may reshape our entire electric grid. Done properly, this new development may foster economic growth and allow for significant infrastructure investments in our electric system. Done prudently, Pennsylvania could reap those benefits while limiting or lowering transmission costs for existing customers. I've said on several occasions that we will need to use every tool in the toolbox to achieve those goals, and our Act 129 programs are one of those tools. These programs have seen a number of iterations over the years. Some measures have made more or less sense and been shown to be more or less cost-effective in different periods. In this fifth phase of Act 129, I'm pleased to see the inclusion of a daily load-shifting peak demand reduction program. As we are having serious conversations about resource adequacy for the first time in many years, demand-side programs like these may be extremely useful in minimizing peak loads. I also appreciate the inclusion of a managed electric vehicle charging in this phase. I will not go through all the measures included in these programs in detail. I simply conclude by saying that the next few years may be some of the most challenging and also most exciting that we have seen in some time for our electric grid. The entire industry, from customers and utilities to regulators and legislators, will need to be creative and adaptive to maximize the opportunities and minimize the risks in front of us. I believe this final implementation order today is an important piece of that effort, and I look forward to working with all stakeholders as we move towards program implementation. Any further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and matters are approved by a vote of 5-0. Continuing on page 6 of the agenda, I move that the Commission adopt in an omnibus motion the remaining item on page 6, beginning with the proposed order regarding the application of L&J Gas Company and Apollo Resources, LLC, and continuing the omnibus to include both items on page 7, both items on page 8, all 3 items on page 9, and both items on page 10, ending the omnibus with the proposed order regarding the Price Stability Index Service Price Index Report filed by the Consolidated Communications of Pennsylvania, LLC. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the matters are approved by a vote of 5-0. Turning to page 11 of today's agenda, and matters presented by Chief Counsel Screven and the Law Bureau. I move that the Commission adopt the proposed order regarding PA 1 Call Act 50 administrative penalties. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chair Barrow. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and matters are approved by a vote of 5-0. Turning to page 12 of the agenda, matters presented by Chief A.L.J. Rainey in the Office of Administrative Law Judge. I move that the Commission adopt the initial decision of A.L.J. Coogan in the formal complaint of the PUC Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement versus UGI Utilities Incorporated Gas Division. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Yanora. Any discussion?
Chairman,
Vice Chair Barrow.
please enter my conflict statement into the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Any further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the matter is approved by a vote of 5-0. That concludes all agenda items to be considered today. But before we adjourn, I'd like to recognize Vice Chair Barrow for remarks on Juneteenth. Vice Chair Barrow.
Thank you, Chairman. So tomorrow is Juneteenth, National Freedom Day. So I want to take a few moments to reflect on what the holiday means. It's not just a date in history. It's a reminder of how far we've come and how far we still have to go. Juneteenth commemorates the day in 1865 when news of emancipation finally reached the furthest reaches of the South. More than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed and months after the Civil War ended. For many enslaved people in Texas, freedom was not denied, but it was delayed. You heard me give remarks on Juneteenth last year, and I'll keep repeating the story as long as anybody will listen. because while my kids think I'm ancient, I'm truly not. The story of this delay in emancipation wasn't taught to me in school. So today, Juneteenth stands as a powerful symbol of liberation, resilience, and remembrance. But it's not a simple story. The end of slavery in this country was not a clean break. It was slow, it was uneven, it was painful, it was shaped by resistance, injustice, and uncertainty. The end of slavery is not an easy story, but it's worth teaching accurately, because when history is forgotten, the lessons learned are also forgotten. Even after Juneteenth, true freedom remained out of reach for many Black Americans through Reconstruction, Jim Crow, redlining, voter suppression, and other forms of institutionalized discrimination that still echo today. That's why Juneteenth is more than just a celebration. It's a call to remember the complexity of our past and to commit ourselves to building a more just and equitable future. We owe it to ourselves, to each other, to understand that history. It's our history, not just the comfortable parts, and to hold space for the stories and struggles and triumphs that have often been ignored. So tomorrow, I encourage you, go to a Juneteenth event. If you can't do that, read something you haven't read before. Talk to somebody who's not like you, whose experience is different from yours. Don't let the day go by without honoring it. There's a beautiful event happening just down the road at Gettysburg National Military Park. It's happening throughout the summer. It's 100 nights of taps, including a bugler playing at the Lincoln Cemetery. I think that'll be every Sunday. That's the African American cemetery in the park. Remember, it's not just about the past. It's not just about remembering the past. Remembering our past should be intentional and in service of the future that we want to build. Thank you for listening, and happy Juneteenth.
Thank you, Vice Chair Barrow. Before we adjourn, I also want to take a moment to recognize the outstanding work of our Pipeline Safety Division, which was recently evaluated by the Federal Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, or PHMSA. And, this is my third year on the commission going through these, and these scores are very similar to scores that you've heard in the past. And, these results of our annual review are once again exceptional. Perfect scores in PHMSA's progress report review for both gas and hazardous liquid pipeline safety programs. 100 out of 100 score for our gas program, and a 96 out of 96 for our liquid program in the program evaluation review. These are national evaluations, and these scores put Pennsylvania's pipeline safety program among the very best in the country. With more than 88,000 miles of pipeline under our oversight, the work of our safety team touches nearly every corner of the Commonwealth. Their daily efforts, including inspections, trainings, enforcement, and collaboration with utilities, help reduce risk and improve safety. That includes important progress in removing cast iron and bare steel pipelines, which represent some of the highest risk materials in our system. And we're taking that same momentum and applying it to a new challenge, the removal of older plastic pipelines, which were installed decades ago and, according to PHMSA bulletins, may show signs of premature failure. Last year, the Commission launched a new initiative to examine the accelerated replacement of these first-generation plastic materials. Together, these steps reflect our ongoing commitment to pipeline safety. And I want to thank every member of the PUC Pipeline Safety Division and the leadership of the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement under Director Allison Castor and Safety Division Manager Rob Herensky. Both Allison and Rob's team have consistently done great work in this space, and we appreciate it. for the work they do every day in protecting Pennsylvanians. There is no other business to come before the commission. Is there any objection to adjourning today's meeting? Hearing none, we are adjourned.